A lost son returns home as the Seattle Seahawks signed Cooper Kupp, the free agent wide receiver from the Los Angeles Rams, to bring him in and help continue to reinforce this wide receiver room, which was thinned out recently with the departures of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And in Cooper Kupp, you get a player who has been tremendously productive for the Los Angeles Rams. He's only 3 years removed from the Triple Crown award-winning season at the wide receiver position he had a couple of years ago in that year where they won the Super Bowl. He's been a very steady player within that receiving core, working both on the outside and within the slot. He gives you a little bit of both in that respect of things. And as you've seen the Los Angeles Rams be willing through the years to move through a litany of receivers, Robert Woods, Odell Beckham, Brandon Cooks, the list goes on. He has been the man who's remained through this time, through this Super Bowl run of time they've had with a couple of Super Bowl appearances and a lot of playoff success as that very consistent performer there for this team. The word on the street with Cooper Kupp and what you're going to hear a lot about with him is that perhaps he is not what he once was, that Triple Crown season, as great as it was, took a lot of miles off of his engine. And that might be the case. When you do go back and watch the tape at times last season, he doesn't always look like or appear that he's operating at 100%. When you talk to people that are associated with the Rams a little bit on this, they say that there's maybe a little bit as far as a change in the way that he can change direction, which was a big part of his game coming out. He wasn't a straight line burner type, kind of a 4.62 guy coming out of college. It was as much of his ability to change direction, and he may not quite have as much of that anymore, kind of restricting him down as a player. Nonetheless, he still went out last year and on an injury-shortened season was still very productive for that Los Angeles Rams team. You still saw Stafford looking to go to him time and time again, even busted off a 67-yarder against the Patriots, still showing off some pretty good route running overall. Maybe just not as much also the yak guy that he once was when he was coming out. You're not going to maybe use him as much in the fly sweep game, maybe not use him as much in the bubble screen game, but still I think a very competent receiver who you can rely to be on the right place, the right time, who can run all of the routes that you're going to want run in this offensive system. It's not purified going from one like to the exact other, but it's very similar across the board, and he's going to fit in that way. Like I said as well, he's going to fit at all of the different wide receiver positions. He can probably do a little bit of X, a lot of Z, a little bit of slot as well. So wherever you want to move him in on that, he's been a pretty competent and good blocker throughout his career. He will get after it in that way. So that's another part that was something that we're going to need for this team going forward. Is I love Jackson Smith-Njigba, for instance, but there is some worries with him at times when it comes to actually the run blocking game of things. And that's something that Cooper Kupp is going to bring. There's also the leadership angle of this, where the Seahawks are for sure in the future here to be going with some more younger receivers as we go along, and having a guy like Cooper Kupp in the building that can help to bring these guys along, show them how to be a pro, show them how to prove and get better, show them what a real work ethic looks like. That can be very valuable for an up-and-coming receiving crew like the one we might be building here into the future. So this is a very good signing. We'll have to see what the final numbers are going to be reported down to being. I don't imagine it's going to be a hugely costly deal. No, you're not paying for prime Cooper Kupp. That is not the guy you're going to be getting here. But you're going to be getting a very competent, good player, I would say, who's still going to have some productivity left. And when it comes to some of those out there who would say, well, what's the difference when just running with Tyler Lockett again another year or going with Cooper Kupp? I think these guys at this point in time in their career have a little bit of some different skill sets in what they bring. While yes, Cooper Kupp is not the yak, maybe monster he kind of was like in his younger days, he still does provide you some good, competent yak in that way. A little bit more, I think, of an ability to catch the ball out away from his body, to extend out away from his body on some of those catches, contact catches, these kind of catches that a wide receiver is going to have to face in this kind of offense, in this kind of system with the short passing attack that is involved. So I think that this is a little bit more of a better fit when it comes to that. As an aside, there's a couple different parts of this that also stand out to me that I think are worth noting with this Cooper Kupp situation. One, the miss angle of Cooper Kupp. The fact that the Seahawks didn't highlight or target this guy in that draft, a guy that was in their own backyard, who had been very prodigious, albeit at a smaller school, but it wasn't a flash in the pan. It wasn't a one-year wonder situation out there at Eastern Washington. And yet you have the Rams on the other side of it, not only targeting him, but targeting him with a pretty good draft pick, being a third-round pick to go and grab him. And a story stands out to me when I was out there in Spokane listening to the sports radio a couple of years ago, where the host was talking about a conversation with the local Seattle scout. And he was asking about Cooper Kupp, because that was just down the road, saying, hey, what do you think about this guy? Maybe you guys would think about drafting him. And the Seattle scout said, we don't even see him as an NFL wide receiver. Speaks to you a little bit about the difference between those two organizations, their outlook in drafting recently, where you have a Rams team willing to not only take that player, but take him high, and they are right on that. They get a very good amount of productivity out of him for many different years, and for Seattle, wasn't even on their radar. maybe a little bit of course correction here, which I do find interesting, but also shows you a little bit of why there's been a bit of a difference in how these two teams have drafted and developed in recent years, and why the Rams have had success, why they've been to a couple of Super Bowls recently, and why the Seattle Seahawks have really struggled to even be getting into the playoffs. Maybe Cooper can help you get into the over the top on that. Big part of this, though, of course, is really going to be about where is his health. Has he a guy that's just fully diminished, all those miles taken off the engine, and there's very little left? Or is it just a matter of finally now he just needs a little bit of time to get fully back to right? He'll be fresh, wasn't used out that most last year, played only really partial amount of the season. So maybe you get a good version of him. Maybe at least he's functional for you for a couple of years as you start to reinforce this wide receiver room with youngsters who he can then help to guide along and help to bring up and help to develop along with the rest of this coaching staff. So I think it's a good signing. I can see a lot of intelligence behind it and why the Seattle Seahawks are doing it. And it's always nice to bring the hometown kid back. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.